Welcome back to the Abundant Behavior Podcast. I'm your host, Ali Banks. And on my channel, I like to take faith and business and combine it all on one platform. You know that they say that the biggest gap in the world is between knowing and doing. And the reason a lot of people don't do is simply because they lack the knowledge. So what I like to do is I like to bring various topics, various entrepreneurs, words from the Bible, things that can help you guys on your journey so you can get to your destination a little bit faster. On today's Word Wednesday, the word is going to be keep the promise. Keep the promise. Maybe this can be a promise to yourself, but mostly today we're going to be talking about keeping a promise to God. Those goals you wrote down for God, those godly promises, And before we get into it, I just want to look up the definition of promise. I looked up the definition and it said a declaration or assurance that one will do a particular thing or that a particular thing will happen. So one word that stood out to me is declaration, your word. My mother will always tell me, she would say, Ali, all you have in this world is your word. So when you say you're going to do something, you probably need to be doing it. Not probably, she said you need to do it. That's something that always stuck with me. Always being a man of my word, that declaration that I make, that promise that I make. But nobody's perfect. So sometimes we fall short of the promises we make to ourselves and the promises that we made to God. But God is so loving. Jesus is so loving that we can sin and sometimes it won't even affect us. I mean, we don't see the effects of it. We don't feel the effects of it. But ultimately, it's a buildup. It's a buildup. And one day, if you keep turning and keep sinning and keep doing this thing over and over that you told God you were going to stop, that you need to stop, it's not aligned with yourself, it's not aligned with your goals, one day it's going to hurt you to the point where you hit rock bottom. Usually when this happens, a lot of people, they turn their nose to God. Oh, why he let this happen? Why would he do this to me? Don't question God, but what you need to do is question the promises that you've kept. Have you been keeping those promises? Have you been doing what you said you were going to do? You got that gym membership. You said you was going to get in that gym a long time ago. You still haven't stepped foot in that gym. You complaining about the way you look in the mirror. You being envious of other people that's in shape. Only because you're insecure and you haven't kept that promise to yourself or to the promise you made to God. It can be content, just as simply as posting. You said you were going to post once a day. We haven't seen any content the whole year. We 6 months in. But yet again, I'm not the one to judge. You know the promises you made to yourself. You know the declaration that you made to yourself and to God. Same with me. I got a little story for you guys, and it just happened yesterday. So I've been on a little cut journey. I'm always in the gym, but right now I'm cutting down. I want to lose 10 pounds. So I told myself I'm going to lay off the fast food and I'm not going to eat any more red meat. And this is a promise that I made to God. I said, God, cutting out the red meat. We're going to do home cooked meals. Very seldomly will I eat out. But yesterday, I got up and I was going to see one of my friends. And so I'm like, all right, let me get some Subway real quick. And so I get this Subway, I usually go in there and get the 12-inch sub. Me, I like to eat. But because of the promises that I kept to God, I told myself that I'm going to only go in there. I'm going to get the 6-inch sub. So I felt good about myself. I get to my friend's house, I eat, and he like, man, I'm hungry too. I'm going to order me some food. So as he's ordering it, he ordering it from one of my favorite little restaurants out here in Virginia, Fat Phillies. I'm like, man, let me get one of those, man. Add me one to the order. In the back of my mind, I'm like, bro, you're not keeping that promise. But I was like, God, you know what I'm saying? My heart, I'm just a little hungry. Tomorrow I'm gonna be right. But this is something that I always do. Like, I always tell myself and promise to God, like, hey, God, I ain't gonna eat this. I'm not gonna do that. I ain't gonna indulge in this. When it comes to food, man, like, that's one of those things with me that my discipline, sometimes I'm not the best. And so I have to continuously stay in my word with that. But I was like, you know what? Let me get the sandwich. So I get the sandwich, man. The food smell good. It's hot, bro. Devouring his food. I'm like, all right, let me dig in, So I open up the box. I get to eat. I ate a fry. I ate 2-3 French fries. And before I know it, I seen a hair in my food, a piece of hair. I stopped dead in my tracks. Picking around the food to see. I found another one. And a couple more. It's like somebody took their hair and just like did this. So I was disgusted. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I know I rushed this meal last minute and my boy had already ordered his food. So maybe they were upset. I worked in food service. I know how cooks can get upset and do things that, you know what I'm saying, out of spite because they just in that kitchen mad. I felt violated. You know, my friends like, you want me to dispute it? I'm like, nah, because right then and there, don't dispute the charges. Let them keep that money. Because right then and there, I told myself, you didn't keep the promise. You didn't keep the promise, bro. You told yourself you wasn't going to be overindulging in fast food. You even told yourself that you wasn't eating red meat. And you're overindulging because you just ate not too long ago. And now this happens. So I was like, that was God. He was correcting me. So right then and there, man, I just was like, yeah, God. Yeah, God, let me keep the promise. Let me keep the promise because I see how God can turn his eye from you if you don't keep the promise. You like, all right, I got you, son. Like, I got you, son. Like, you good. But it's after a while with God, like, all right, you got the power of choice, bro. Do whatever you gonna do. That's what's so good about, you know what I'm saying, God, is that he gives us the ability to do whatever we decide to do. But when you start to overindulge in the lifestyle you want to live and not the lifestyle that's aligned with God, it starts to hurt you in ways you've never seen. If I would have kept that promise, I would have never had that meal. I would have never got violated like that if I would have just kept the promise. And I was like, okay, I got you. So I immediately came home. Man, I scrubbed my teeth, brushed my teeth. I cut up some fruit, made me some fruit, you know, and I was like, okay, cool. Took me a nap, went to the gym, came home and made something else healthy to eat after that. I have food at home. But, you know, sometimes the ways of this world, it gets in our way. We be blinded so much by our sin that we think that it's normal. And it's not until something like that happens that we like, okay, God, I see what you mean. I see why I shouldn't be eating certain foods. I see why I need to stay away from these certain restaurants. Let me keep the promise, right? So today I want to bring you guys a word from Joshua. I've talked enough, you know, but I want to bring you guys a word from Joshua that stood out to me. And it shows exactly what it looks like if you don't keep those promises. You know, Moses had went up on a mountain. This is after Moses had passed away. He went up on a mountain, about 130 years old. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. And then through that, Jesus found that Joshua was the next up. He's the head honcho. I want him to lead the people because he's on right on track of where he's supposed to be. You know, as far as your faith, your belief, everything was aligned with Joshua. So after Moses, Joshua took over. So this word comes from Joshua 7. And we're going to read, let me see. We're going to read Joshua 7, 10 through 12. And it reads, the Lord said to Joshua, stand up. What are you doing down on your face? So right before this, all his men, they were sinning. They were turning from God. They were doing what they wanted to do. People were stealing from the covenant of God, stealing gold. And Joshua was just like, man, I'm just defeated. I don't know what to do. So he falls down on his face. Right? It says he fell down on his face. And the Lord said to Josh, stand up. What are you doing on your face? First of all, to me, that just means like, bro, it doesn't matter how bad on rock bottom you got. Get up and do something about your situation. Move, shake, bounce back. God says, stand up, bro. Why are you on your face? Then he goes on to say, Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant, which I commanded them to keep. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen. They have lied. They have put them with their own possessions. They're stealing things that's supposed to be possessions to God. They broke his covenant, which means that they broke the promise, you know? So now God is like, all right, I'm gonna let you guys do what you want. You guys want to go over there and fight these men? I told you guys I wasn't going to be with you guys. A lot of their men were killed in this battle simply because God turned his eye to them. He like, y'all don't want to keep my covenant. Y'all stealing, y'all robbing, and you think I'm going to be with y'all when the times get hard? Like, I love you, but I gotta let you see what it's like not to keep the promise. Right? Then it goes on to say, this is why the Israelites cannot stand against their enemies. They turn their backs and run because they have been made liable to destruction. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever amongst you is devoted to destruction. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever among you is devoted to destruction. So what does that mean? Okay, I'm in the gym, I'm working out, I'm healthy. That doesn't sound like it's aligned with destruction. All right, I'm eating bad food every day. I'm laying around, I'm talking negative. That sounds like it's aligned with destruction. And so if you want to have these promises, if you want to have that peace from God, we have to keep these promises to ourselves. Just like me with the food, or maybe it's you with the gym, or maybe it's you with content, or maybe it's you, whatever the promise is, we have to keep the promise. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Just that promise right there that God has given us for hope and a future. That just makes me feel good. Like, okay, God, hope in the future, I'm going to keep every promise because I know that land of milk and honey it's not in that destruction. We have to keep the promise. We have to keep that declaration we made to ourselves, but most importantly to God. When you ignore your blessings, and when you ignore your calling, and when you ignore your promises, it's delaying somebody else's promises. God is using you to be a blessing to somebody else. God is using your life to shine on other people. He wants you to be the example. He's trying to use you to help his other people get in the gym. He's trying to use you to help other people get in the content. He knows the influence you have. He just wants you to keep those small promises so that you can get to that land of milk and honey. I hope that you guys enjoyed this Wednesday's word Wednesday, however you want to say it. That came from Joshua 7. I hope that you guys meditate on this word and just do me one favor. Like and subscribe to this video. Comment down in the comment section. I'm keeping the promise. I see you guys on Sunday for another episode, an interview. Y'all just gonna have to see who it is, but we got another interview Sunday coming up. Some twin brothers doing dope things out here in the 757. So you guys stay tuned for the episode because we only gonna be getting better.